So Sarah, we did the previous video. You talked about the differences when you're learning between React and Vue, right? And now I have another question. It's like, well, if someone is starting with React and Vue, do you know of something like things that will happen when you're working that will get like confusing, or you should avoid because otherwise it will make you lose a lot of time?
I think one of the major problems that will happen is that you're going to get stuck in an NPM endless cycle, and you're just going to use all of the packages that exist in the world. Like everything, you're going to use everything. You're going to make all the hooks, and you're going to use everything. And I think
because like you need something, and then you say like, okay, let me add the package or something like that.
Yeah, so basically like you see something and you're like, I'm pretty sure there's a package for that. And then there is. And then everything is like React something. So like things that could be JavaScript, for example, like geolocation. You can make that in JavaScript, but for some reason there's a React hook that does geolocation. You're like, I'm going to install this React hook that does geolocation. It's like, you don't need this. You can do this. It also teaches you a lot about JavaScript if you do this, like mostly hooks by yourself. I think one of the things that happened to me a lot while learning the new things in React is that, for example, I think use effect is kind of confusing a bit. So use effect is called when the component is mounted or re-rendered, for example, and then there's like an array of dependencies that when they get changed, that thing is re-rendered. Mm-hmm. But I think the name is kind of confusing. And what happens every single time is that I click use effect and I forget to add the dependencies. And then it just like keeps refreshing my browser. And all the time I'm just like, what the fuck is happening? And then Chrome crashes and I'm like, but I just added a console log that keeps running every second.
Right.
And also I feel like, so you can either add the dependencies, or if you add an empty array, it only runs in the start. And I don't know why this feels like a hack. This feels like a weird hack that they found. And I don't know. It's just, I keep falling for that one. I think one of the problems that I had in the start was that I came from Angular 1. So Angular 1 had a lot of stuff. So you had everything. And then in React, you're going to have to look for everything. So the actual documentation doesn't really give you things to look for. Like you should use this routing or this state or this. So you're going to have to look for these things on your own. So you're going to have to get really good at finding these things.
But there's no like a place for documentation where there are recommendations about.
That's the thing.
things.
I don't know why we're very scared of that. We're very scared of like writing something and then get shit on, which is valid. It's like, don't say you like CSS and JS on the internet.
Because
I'm dead serious.
No, but why?
Don't say that because people will attack you.
I'm not saying that.
Don't ever say that. Or like TypeScript, or that you hate TypeScript. I really like to get hated on. Like I was gay in a Catholic high school. I got used to it.
Okay. But like, is it like kind of the mindset of the community? Like, let's not be opinionated about things, and you should not say recommend something and say or recommend against something.
I mean, you can recommend something, but you mostly have to say that this is completely my opinion. Like I've been thinking about writing something.
You have explicit to say.
Yeah. Like I've been thinking about writing something which is like the opinionated guide to React, for example, which I will say like what are the things that I use.
Cool. That will help a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think that will actually help because of a lot of the problems that we have is that a lot of times we don't know which packages are better. And sometimes they're not even better. Sometimes they can be worse, but they do the thing that I want. Like I looked through like 5 parallax packages for React and they all only did images until I found a random one, like really random, that actually did divs, which is what I wanted. But it took me forever to find that. I don't think it was even React. It was a JavaScript one that I integrated with React. There's also the thing which will happen a lot is when you use React or Vue, you will end up using a lot of packages that are just wrappers around JavaScript packages. Mm-hmm. So they just add a lot of boilerplate to your code and they just make your bundle way bigger. Most of the times you can just use the actual JavaScript packages instead of like having Vue Bootstrap or React
thingy
something. React card.js, which is the fancy card thing that when you type the number, it flips the card and stuff.
So all of that, it's very confusing.
It's very confusing.
Yeah.
No, it is. I feel like...
How can you manage, like, if you're learning React?
Front-end development got way harder. Like, I feel like we can make a lot more stuff, but it came at a cost. Mm-hmm. I remember doing jQuery and it was super simple. Like when it got bigger, we just used PHP or something. I think front-end development, just the fact that we can do something like CodePen or Code Sandbox or Glitch in JavaScript is bonanzas. It's all made in JavaScript. Like JavaScript can compile JavaScript into JavaScript.
Right.
Like JavaScript can do everything. I think
I was talking to Charlie yesterday, and she was saying like she experiments with things like with machine learning in JavaScript, not in Python.
In the browser as
In
well.
the
It's not
browser.
even in Node. It's in the browser.
In the browser, yeah.
Like you can make
That's
machine
cool.
learning in the browser. It's insane. Like the things that you can do in a browser now, you can do pretty much everything. And this come at a cost of things are way more complicated now. Like the only way that you can not get in self-dread is to focus on something and get good at that thing and just ignore the rest.
And maybe there are so many people creating new stuff, and very few people trying to organize these stuff and like find ways to manage dependencies, manage all these kind of things, because I guess we're not aware of the amount of things that we're creating in JavaScript. And the tools are not evolving nearly as fast as
because we want to build cool stuff. We don't want to build another NPM. Because also those are things that you a lot of times cannot build in JavaScript. That's the thing. Like you can build the NPM CLI in JavaScript or the Yarn CLI, but it's not gonna be nearly as fast, or like it's not gonna be nearly as good as the Yarn CLI is. I do think that Yarn was a very good thing that came, but it also adds more confusion. Because you get to any package and it's like npm install or yarn add, and I'm like, what? Like you don't, because npm comes with Node, but I don't think, in my opinion at least, it's not as fast and as like user friendly as Yarn. I think Yarn is way more user friendly. Just the fact that they add emojis makes me feel like they like me as a human being. They're like, I'm valued by Yarn.
So conclusion, use Yarn, right? Oh no, you did that.
That's
you
the
said
thing.
an opinion.
No, I do think you should use Yarn. I do think Yarn is better. The thing is, if you're just getting started, you have to install both.
Yeah. Okay.
And Yarn is installed with Brew, because you can't install Yarn with npm, and you're just like, what the fuck is Brew? So it just gets into this like really weird spiral where you keep having to install things just to use JavaScript.
So basically, the only advice that we can give people here, like, that's fine. If you get into this kind of
we still
mess,
do. Everyone still does. That's the thing.
Yeah, like it's not you. It's the whole thing. It looks
just
like this.
So complicated now, and all of us have imposter syndrome because all of us focused on something and then we have to do something else, and we're like, what the fuck? Like, there's a bunch of people that do really amazing things that you think they are amazing at everything. No, they really just like that thing, and so they do a lot of that thing, and I think that's how you need to see the world. Like, you're gonna get stuck. I've gotten stuck like days. I spent 3 days making cube animations once. It was terrible because I suck at animations. I have bad eyesight and I can't like stay focused for that long. So I was just like, I had a ruler on top of the screen just to measure things. Like, a lot of times when I get design things, they're like, Sarah, this is not a line. I'm like, no, it's a line.
It looks like a line.
It's not a line. I'm like, oh wait, oh shit, it's not, because my eyesight is terrible. Like, I can do like this with my eyes, which means that I have like this eye is lazy, so I see things slightly smaller. So like if you ask me to do animations or if you ask me to do really like specific padding stuff, I'm just like, this is gonna take a week, and I'm gonna burn my eyelids.
But that's but you think like that? No, but it's real, right? That you have a hard time.
Yeah, I have this. Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah, it's really weird.
But did it ever bother you really in like your professional work?
No, I think the only thing that it kind of bothers me a lot of the times is with really like tiny designer things. Like when you send something for designer and they come up with something really small. Like there was a bug that was found in the homepage that honestly, to this day, I had to call my wife and be like, Alex, can you see the thing? And she was like, oh wait, let me take off the contact lenses and get the glasses. I'm like, oh my god.
You're not.
She got the glasses. She's like, it's here. I was like, can you fix it? Because I can't see it. So it's mostly that. I don't have a huge difference because I don't even have to use glasses anymore. But there are certain things where it does bother me. But it's really specific things. So, but the point of it is not that I could join a circus. The point is that we're all good at certain things. Like none of us are good at everything. So no one's
Yeah.
a genius.
But sometimes you get too much impressed by someone, and it's like, oh, that I can't nearly be as good as that person,
Sarah
and then
Drasner.
it gets you, and remove all your motivation.
Yeah,
Basically,
Sarah
what you're saying here, like
You're talking
no,
about
no.
Sarah Drasner, I get it. And also the thing is, if you ever meet any of the speakers or any of the people that you usually admire, they're idiots. It's beautiful. It was the biggest gift that I ever got from speaking, was realizing that everyone is a goddamn idiot. Like, no one knows what they're doing, and everyone finishes their talk in the last day. It's beautiful.
And that's nice. Yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you find this only when you start speaking. And you realize that no one is a genius. We're all idiots and no one knows what they're doing. And it's like, this is beautiful. I love
And actually,
this.
in good conferences, the speakers are like, they talk to you and all, and then you find that they have questions exactly like you, and they're not sure exactly like you. And when I used to go to QCon, and you'll have like the Netflix architect, software architect. He did like
Everything.
Netflix,
Yeah.
right? And you see, like he has the same doubts that you have. It's just that he's so persistent in doing his work and caring about his work that he can get to that level. But just, you need to be persistent, actually.
Yeah, you need to work on it a lot. And there's also, if you ask the director of ops at Netflix about CSS, he's probably not going to know. Well, if you ask a CSS person anything about like WebSockets or something, like how to make WebSockets do the thing, a lot of them will not know.
Yeah.
Like, because they focused on their own thing and they also have questions.
Yeah. Okay, but like we talked about React and things that annoyed you at some point about React. Do you have anything about Vue, for instance?
I don't like that every time, like, for example, when you want to do an on-click on Vue and you say on-click submit this form, for example, it needs to be inside of a methods. Like, you can't just write submit form. It has to be like methods submit form. And also, because it uses a lot of this, you can't use arrow functions in most of the places. Which feels very like old-timey, but it's because it focuses a lot on using this keyword. So if you use this, the functions need to be the old functions. Otherwise, it just loses it because this will not be the function. Yeah, it's just. I think those are two things that will get very confusing. As you will look at the functions and be like, I can just use arrow functions, and then you use it and nothing works, and it's kind of confusing. Also, the methods
did they
part.
have to use the this keyword? I mean, couldn't they handle it somewhere else, like in a different manner?
Because this is how they use state.
Yeah.
Maybe one day will change because of everyone moving to this type of stuff. Maybe one day will change, and I think they're gonna use something kind of similar to hooks, which is not like hooks, but it's like kind of similar. So it'll probably be another way to use it.
Yeah.
And it was also the thing of like for a long time after I started using Vue, and I just stopped using Angular for a long time. So Vue has V4. And V4 to do into do's, for example, and then you put an li, and this is in an li that will like do a for loop on all the to-dos. For example, as you can see, Vue uses for while React uses map, for example. They're like different ideas. Well, a lot of the times I would write ng4, and then I would just stare at it, and I was like, why is this not working?
Yeah, right.
I don't understand.
So that's more of the differences between React and Vue, because you get used to use it in React, and then
No, it was because in Angular 1 it wasn't V4, it was ng4.
Okay. That's
So it was when I did the switch and started using a bit of Vue. I was like, why isn't this working? I don't understand.
Okay, well, thank you very much for this. I guess next video maybe we'll talk a bit more about CSS. How about that?
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
Yeah, I can explain why I use CSS and JS. Why I'm the devil.
You have to justify
Why
yourself.
I'm the devil.